You know that person who says, "It's fine," about almost everything? The cancelled plan, the missed flight, the breakup they barely talk about, the thing that would have wrecked someone else for a week. And somehow, they actually mean it. Not fake, not numb, not robotic. They just don't react the way other people do. Maybe you've watched them take hit after hit and still stay strangely calm. Maybe you've even envied it a little. Or maybe this is where it gets personal. Maybe that person is you. And if it is, people have probably misunderstood you your whole life. Too distant, too hard to read, maybe even a little cold. But here's what most people miss. Sometimes saying, "I'm fine," isn't denial, it's adaptation. Picture this. You're at an airport. The gate changes twice. Then the flight gets delayed. Then it's cancelled. You can hear it happening all around you. Sharp sighs, angry footsteps, someone already yelling at the desk. And then there's that one person. They just stand there, phone in one hand, bag over their shoulder, already looking for the next option. No drama, no spiral, not pretending it's fun, just moving. That kind of calm confuses people. Because most people assume calm means easy. It doesn't. Sometimes it just means your internal scale is calibrated differently. Here's what nobody tells you. Their brain isn't broken. It's trained. Trained by necessity. Trained by years of surviving things that were never supposed to happen. Psychologist Richard Tedeschi spent years studying this. His research found that about half to two-thirds of people who go through serious adversity don't just recover. They grow. Their relationships deepen. Their priorities get clearer. Their appreciation for ordinary moments becomes almost uncomfortably intense. They'll tear up at a beautiful sunset. And they're not embarrassed about it. Psychologists sometimes call this stress inoculation. When your mind and body handle difficulty again and again, they get better at functioning inside it. Not perfectly, not painlessly, but efficiently. And here's the identity shift most people miss. You're not emotionally distant. You're emotionally calibrated. That's not numbness. That's experience. But there's a shadow side nobody talks about. The same system that learned to stay calm under pressure can also turn down other things: joy, excitement, anticipation, that promotion you worked for, that trip you finally booked, that moment everyone else is celebrating like it's huge. And you feel it, just less than you expected. Not because you're ungrateful, not because you're broken, because the same part of you that learned not to overreact also learned not to turn the emotional volume all the way up unless it had to. Calm can look beautiful from the outside. Inside, it can feel flat. But here's where it gets interesting. You'd think someone who's been through hell would panic faster. Sometimes they do, but sometimes the exact opposite happens. New apartment fell through? They'll figure it out. Car won't start? Okay, next step. Plans collapse at the last second? Annoying, but not the end of the world. What looks like nothing bothers them is often a nervous system that learned endurance early. You didn't learn that in a classroom. You survived it. And here's where it gets weird. These same people often become some of the most empathetic people you'll ever meet. Not quietly empathetic, almost aggressively empathetic. They can spot pain in others from a mile away because they've learned that language fluently. A small shift in your tone? They notice. A forced smile? They've already clocked it. They're probably thinking about how to check in on you later without making it awkward. They know how to read silence, not just the absence of words, but the texture of it. Whether it feels heavy, disappointed, irritated, or just tired. Most people walk into a room and see furniture. They walk in and read the emotional temperature. But here's the trap you don't see coming. People who've been through too much often stop expecting anyone else to carry the weight. They don't ask for help. They don't like needing people. They'll be drowning and still say, "I've got it," even when they clearly don't. And here's the strange part. They're usually the first people everyone calls in a crisis. The friend who answers at 2 a.m. The partner who stays calm when everything falls apart. The sibling who handles the paperwork while everyone else is still in shock. They hold the world together for other people, but hide their own cracks. There's a whole group of people who will sit through a 2-hour video about trauma, survival, and healing, but the second someone asks, "Are you okay?" they say, "Yeah, I'm good." That's not random. That's you. You can face difficult truths in private, but in real life, vulnerability still feels expensive. And then there's the humor. The humor is next level. Dark humor. Specifically, It's not about being insensitive. It's about taking power away from pain. When you can laugh at the absurdity of your own suffering, it loses some of its grip. Comedy becomes armor. Every joke is a tiny rebellion against the things that tried to break you. But here's what rarely gets acknowledged. Grief. Not just for what happened, but for who you might have been. For the version of you that might have felt lighter, safer, less watchful. The version who trusted more easily, needed less control, felt joy without checking the room first. How do you explain that you miss a version of yourself you barely remember? How do you tell someone you're homesick for a place that only existed inside your own mind? A childhood you didn't fully get to live. A softness you didn't get to keep. A freedom you learned about too late. That kind of grief is different. It doesn't always cry loudly. Sometimes it just shows up as a strange homesickness for a life you can't quite picture, but somehow still miss. And yet, that loss shapes something extraordinary. People who've been through too much often develop a deep understanding of what it means to be human. They know strength and tenderness can live in the same body. That calm doesn't always mean peace. That gratitude hits differently when you know how quickly things can fall apart. They're walking paradoxes. Tough, but tender. Guarded, but generous. Hopeful, but realistic. Life can be beautiful and brutal at the same time, often in the same breath. So the next time you meet someone who seems a little too comfortable with chaos, pay attention. That calm might not come from an easy life. It might come from a life that taught them how to keep standing when things got hard. Their survival became insight. Their pain became compassion. And without even realizing it, they became something rare. A lighthouse. Not because their life was gentle, but because they learned how to navigate storms that would have broken others. A lighthouse doesn't shine because it's perfect. It shines because it remembers the darkness. If this feels familiar, you're probably someone who learned early how to stay steady when life wasn't. You're not broken. You're someone whose nervous system learned to survive first, and explain itself later. Some people are peaceful by nature. Others became peaceful the hard way. And that kind of calm? It doesn't come from never seeing storms. It comes from learning how to navigate them. So be honest. Are you the calm one in chaos? Or the one everyone runs to when chaos starts? Drop it in the comments. And if this finally gave words to something you felt but never said out loud, subscribe. There's a lot more where this came from.